I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it.
Hello amigos. Welcome to Move It Movie. As today's movie porter, we are transporting an American horror movie, A Quiet Place Part 2. It is the sequel to 2018's A Quiet Place, following the family from the first film as they continue to navigate and survive in a post-apocalyptic world inhabited by blind aliens with an acute sense of hearing. Following the events at home, the Abbott family now face the terrors of the outside world. Forced to venture into the unknown, they realize the creatures that hunt by sound are not the only threats lurking beyond the sand path. This movie taught uneasy audiences to follow suit, filling theaters with silent observers. No moviegoer would want Krasinski to repeat this terror exactly for a sequel, but the changes he's made in this follow-up then feel especially brash. It's bigger, faster, louder, and more typical for the horror blockbuster genre. Part 2 has got approximately triple the amount of dialogue as the original, and its horror is far more literal and straightforward. If you were more scared of the sound-hating, generic-looking crab/spider monsters with the venom-like heads from the first movie than you were the visceral challenge of complete silence, A Quiet Place Part 2 is especially for you. In writing and directing this sequel, Krasinski proves his intelligence and his non-subversive priorities when it comes to being a genre director. He also asserts his talent at orchestrating tense life-or-death scenes with an exciting sense of when to go slow and when to floor it. With Part 1 focusing on sacrifice for family, this sequel now concerns what one would give up to help others. Cillian Murphy plays the bleary Emmett, the newest addition to the series, a family friend from the ball game who ponders this question when he refuses to help the Abbotts after they step into the abandoned factory he lords over. He is incredibly resistant at first, especially given his own loss and waning food supply. And he warns Evelyn of looking for others, talking about how there are now people who aren't worth saving. Emmett has an intriguing bitterness, until the film's overall emotional growth is reduced to Emmett learning to follow the gospel of all-American hero Lee, which is not the only cheesy idea that Krasinski takes too seriously. And yet within the movie's fear of other humans, it does ramp up a good bit of fear later on with people who are less giving than the Abbotts. It's scary when a group of people are staring at you and not saying a word. As his characters venture into new territory, it's solid craftsman Krasinski who is noticeably not taking many risks. He leads with intention, and he's confident with multiple threads at once, and in putting every cast member, including the baby, in uncomfortable danger. And yet anytime he'll do something really radical like bring Reagan to the forefront, alone with shotgun in hand he eventually shirks from it for a development that's noticeably easier. Or in some cases, he'll rely on an easy scare with a dead body popping into frame, piling on the movie's numerous loud noises for scares. The series' original appeal of minimal, hushed dialogue is toyed with too, as Part 2 bends some of the rules eagerly enforced, all for the sake of quietish conversations that streamline emotions in a way that's far less eloquent than the sign language in the original. The performances remain sound and intense, even if the story gives little space for them. Blunt is in more of a straightforward action mode, having already proven how badass she was in the first movie, still embodying a great deal of physical stress and the maternal urge to protect. Jupe and Simmons are true professionals when it comes to crying, screaming terror, and they both bring out a tenderness to this story of discovery with glimmers of hope. And Krasinski remains good at casting interesting faces for their intensity. Murphy's face can show a certain weariness in different lights, and here he looks beat, mysterious. The first movie ended essentially at its climax, with our heroes, the Abbotts, finally tipping the scales after 400-some days of terror under their noise-slaying captors. Part 2 begins with a deliciously cruel reset, going back to day one of all this, when no one knew anything. We as audience members know what comes eventually. Krasinski's plotting treats the first movie as required viewing, and that makes a scene at a little league baseball game an open field of noise and especially nerve-rattling, jack-in-the-box sequence in a movie that has plenty of them. The match is called off when something especially big blows up in the sky, everyone shuffles home. Many citizens don't stand a chance after the aliens suddenly slam into town, sending Lee Abbott, Krasinski, into hiding with his daughter Reagan, acted by Millicent Simmons, while Mother Evelyn, acted by Emily Blunt, frantically drives with her 2 sons. This is like a high-octane victory lap for what Krasinski accomplished in the first movie, especially as its bracing violence reacclimatizes us to fearing sound, while locking us into different characters' points of view with long takes as they try to navigate pure chaos. A Quiet Place Part 2 announces here that it's playing a different and considerably less interesting game, but it's a bravura sequence. Part 2 then jumps right to the end of the last one, moments after Evelyn victoriously cocked a shotgun. With their family's barn burning and patriarch Lee dead in the fields, it's time to leave home. Carrying her newborn baby, Evelyn travels with her daughter Reagan and son Marcus off the sand path that had previously been laid by Lee, past the gravesite of their young son from the beginning of the first movie. Reagan has her cochlear implant in hand, looking to further weaponize it after its feedback proved at the end of the first movie to give the monsters debilitating headaches, or something like that. Her search for more people sets them on a course for a signal and the unknown of humanity. What's surprising about the whole A Quiet Place emotional experience largely fades here, especially as all of this unfolds with a numbing amount of max volume slams, bangs, and bass warbles. But the moments in which humans and monsters clash are incredibly robust and kinetic, and succeed at getting you to think of nothing else in the story but the terror on screen.